So the city of Chicago, when it tows your car, you can call 311 and give them your license plate or VIN number and or description of the car, make, model, and year, and so on. And they'll tell you where your car is, what pound lot you need to go to. Well, it's the same thing with highways or Lakeshore Drive. When a car breaks down and is left, they can pick up the car and tow it to a pound where they would hold the car for you until you picked it up. But it would get it off the highway. And yes, you would need to pay a fee to pick it up, but you wouldn't get a traffic ticket. Your car broke down, and so you don't get a traffic violation, but you'll have to pay some type of fee for the car. But you want to minimize the fee for the tow and the storage fee. It's supposed to be a safety service. So they would otherwise have their car, and they would have to have it towed from there because it broke down, to the nearest dealership or mechanic shop to get fixed. But Star 999 would remove the car from the highway. Instead of letting it sit on the highway, they would actively tow it, keeping the emergency lanes clear all year round of any vehicles. And so they would remove it, and then you just call Star 99, Star 999, and they'll tell you where your car is located so you can pick it up. And even if you're with your car and for some reason you can't afford a tow or whatever, they'll tow you, they'll take you to the nearest impound lot with your car and drop it there. And then you'll have to pay for it being stored, and then eventually have it towed from that facility. Now, I would assume there's charitable organizations that could help people in financial need with that type of costing. If you can't pay, there can be some type of arrangement worked out where they can do the costing over, charge you on a debit card. They get pre-authorization, and they can charge you the fee broken up over 4 months. And they should do this with parking tickets and that, where you don't have to put down one lump sum. They can amortize the payment over a period of time. So even if your car was illegally parked and it gets towed, that you can come in and they can set a payment plan over 12 months, and if not, over 2 years, to pay back the thing. Like going into the dental office or something, they have I forget what's it called, CARE or something. It's a lending thing, and the dental office takes a discount on their fee, and so they don't charge you for the CARE plan any interest, but the dental office is getting work done now, and so they take a haircut on what they receive from CARE, you pay the care plan, and then they pay the dental office. And they agree to take a haircut. So it's a discounting service fee, but the client doesn't know what the discount is. And you can, it's interest rate free, usually for the first 6 months. So you would have an interest rate free system for the first 6 months for tickets, and that if you can't pay, then it can be amortized out over 6 months. And if you need a year or 2 years, breaking it down into your budget, they would charge you an interest after 6 months. But again, it wouldn't be an excessive interest, because charging high interest, again, makes it prohibitive. And the point is for them to get the work done. And so you charge at a reasonable rate, 7 to 10%. And you make your money by lending more money. But again, the doctor's office gets it all in a lump sum, or they can get it in payments over time. And if the doctor's office takes payments over time, then they get more of the money. And if they want a lump sum, they take a bigger discount. So they get to choose how they receive their money. But again, for stuff like this, it can be worked out. And for mechanical services, it can be worked out where you give them these lines and they pay over time, working with their budget. And if you work with their budget, more than likely, people are going to continue to make the payments. And so they don't get upside down. So it's not predatory lending, where we have a lot of predatory lending. And it's not a good thing. So, again, these things done over or done right can be, very positive. And one thing, since I'm talking positivity, safe passage zones and that, triggering the fight or flight mentality, constantly high cortisol, because they have a lot of gun violence, creates a lot of violence. And so that's why you have a lot of shootings in black communities, because you don't have a sense of safety. And then they want to bring that outside of their community and want to bring around a lack of safety. So they take the terrorism from inside the community and then start expressing it outward. Why should I have to worry about somebody doing some type of gang-related activity? I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. So they project the negativity. And again, I understand going in, and I did go in with all these organizations to solve problems and build businesses and other things within these communities. But the communities also have to do a solid and not have their people terrorizing other communities around them. So, it's kind of a written contract. I'm coming in, we're working through your problems, but you got to check your own people and make sure they're not spreading violence into the other communities, because that is just counterproductive. It really is like cutting off the nose to spite the face. And I understand there's white serial killers per se, but they're not out there threatening people directly. And so you don't get the spike in cortisol and everything and the continuous fear in the same way. So, again, I think these communities have to create some form of reciprocity. Because if a black person can feel safe in a white neighborhood, then truly, then a white person should feel safe in a black neighborhood or a Hispanic neighborhood. It's got to be both ways. It's a give and take. So, again, it's got to be a give and take system where you can feel safe in their community and they can feel safe in your community. So, again, but does leadership talk about that? And this allows commerce. You know why black neighborhoods don't have restaurants and lots of small businesses? Truly. And even Latino communities tend to suffer because people are terrorized to go into the communities. And if people are terrorized, why do you think Michigan Avenue does? North Michigan Avenue, that has all the retailers and people go in and so on and so forth? Because they don't fear the community safe. And fear, as bin Laden tried to do, he tried to collapse everything through breaking down the system. So again, doing the right thing. But everybody, it seems like I'm here in Chicago, and all they've done over 10 years, going on 11, is promote evil. And how? By violating me in every way, shape, or form. From taking my business to, you name it, injustice. And it's been unbelievable over the last 20 years, but in particularly over the last 10 years. And it's funny that, not funny at all, really. I'll strip saying it's funny. It's ironic. So you want a community that thrives, but I don't know any community that thrives on having a lot of violence. I looked at Palestine, you name it, and none of the communities thrive on violence. So, again, peace wins, and that's why police are supposed to keep the peace. Police are supposed to be anti-violence, making sure violence doesn't happen. And so do parents need to understand this, and pastors and that don't talk about it, but you reap what you sow. And you wonder why kids do so much better on the North Shore, as an example. Because they go to school and they don't have to worry about violence. Now, there is things that happen, like happened to me, and so on, bullying, and that needs to be addressed, like at Columbine and everything else. And things academically would even improve further at Deerfield High School or New Trier or many others if you took those issues. But also kids would be able to thrive in Latino and Black communities and Arab communities. Because they don't have to have the negativity. And the negativity creates a lot of drowning out where people want to be part of those groups that controlled the power. Meaning, now there's popularity is another power, the jocks and so on. Like in Twilight, the Collins were this family, they were seen as really cool people and people wanted to hang out with them, but they didn't hang out with anyone except for obviously the girl. But the whole point is, you don't have to be part of that clique. There's the theatrical club, there's the chess club, there's many others. And so those cliques aren't bad things, they're just people that do the same thing, that hang out together. And so they're not bad things. So the jocks can hang out with the jocks, and the chess club, like at Deerfield, there was the photography club and the theater club and many other clubs. Those are your cliques. And the cliques, they need to be there because you're hanging around with those people in those fields, and you share and mentor and promote and encourage. And yes, there's internal competition as well, but it enters mostly as a nurturing environment because you're supposed to have fair competition. And so that's where they should go, not to the drug pit or the alcohol, the drug kids stay together and these negativities stay together. They should use all these cliques. You can be in the international club. You hang out with a lot of people that focus on international things. I don't know, maybe it's international food or whatever, or just international culture. And you go around to the Japanese Cultural Center, the Polish Cultural Center, the German Cultural Center, and, you have a clique that, these people are part of the International Cultural Center. Or you could come up with many others. But these are how they're supposed to funnel you into these. Even intramural activity, like at Deerfield High School, people played floor hockey. I didn't play because I was on a sports team that was for people within school, but at Deerfield we had intramural sports and we had club sports. Our hockey team, Deerfield hockey team, was a club team, and they played other club teams from the cheer and that, so it wasn't a school sponsored program. It was a club program. And so we had club sports, and Greg Piazzi and many people I knew played on the Deerfield hockey team. And it was a club team, and New Trier had them. They had East and West. They had 2 hockey clubs, New Trier High School. But it was a club sport. Everybody talks about soccer, but on the North Shore, we had club hockey. And so lots of people, and they played at the Bubble in Highland Park. But the bad thing is, people thought it was funny by pulling the plug on the generator, turning it off, and it would, come down. And then they have to turn it and re-inflate it. But again, we had club sports. So again, you can get, like I played at University of Arizona. I played on the rugby team, which was a club sport. And then we had a club hockey team at the university. My friend Brett and Kelly played on the club hockey team. So, I think it was a university hockey team, but they had a party with a celebration, and the team got kicked out of the university, and it came back as a club team. But I don't remember the whole story. But anyways, we had club hockey. I played on club rugby, and we played USC, UCLA, Arizona State, and many other Pac-10 schools. And this is another thing, when they broke up the Pac-10 in a way and redid it, that affected club sports, because club sports operate off of less money. They don't have the big boosters and all that and the university funding. And so with the club sport, we played the traditional Pac-10. Oregon schools, Oregon State, Washington State, USC, UCLA, Arizona State, and University of Arizona, where I was at. And the whole thing is, it was easy to travel. See, when they do these things in these realignments, they affect all the club teams. So now the club teams are now playing, because you got to pay out of your pocket on the club sports. We had to pay for a lot of things, our meals and many other things. So the people in the club team, you pay for the travel and things out of your own pocket. So you don't have the university big budget. You get some from the university, but you don't get that much. And when they realign these brackets, you affect, and you can travel for the chess club in college, and you can be at the University of Arizona as an example and play UCLA or USC, and you can have, a whole chess tournament from people from different, but you have teams, and you play on a team basis, and then you have a championship. And those that qualify for the championship, you do it the same way for chess and other, sports. So they can even have a club computer, a club Halo. Truly, it can be a club sport at the university, gaming, or you have club blackjack. And you have people, you contact other universities and have them start a club team, and then you travel to do competition in a poker tournament. So you can have lots of different forms of club teams. And you can have intramural. And we had intramural at the University of Arizona, intramural wrestling, and we had intramural volleyball that we didn't have other schools that had the same thing, so we didn't do a club. We did an intramural within, and it's a big university, 54,000 kids. And so we had that with inside. So there was a whole volleyball thing, and you can play against other fraternities that are on campus. It's easy that, and then independents can form teams. And you have it within the university, a intramural volleyball program. And you can have male, female, co-ed. You can have a softball program. You can, so there's a lot you can do with inside of a university or between universities where it's sponsored by the NCAA or the NAIA, or you can just have club teams. So, again, pieces of shit. Driving around with terrorism in their heart. Here's the tennis courts. You can use these like there's Latin High School or different high schools. They can have a club league right there. Or there's a hospital over here, I forget its name, by Diversity, and they can have a golf team that does par 3 golfing at the Diversity. Or you can create a club that goes to the driving range or putting green. And what do? You set up on the putting green competitions. And they let you use the putting green for, your competitions. And you put the ball at different places. And you create a game out of putting. Or you can create the driving range where you do certain putts. And then you go to the driving range and you have to hit the ball, over 200 yards or whatever. You set up your own type of driving, competition where you intertwine the driving range with the putting range and make it some type of sport. Truly. Or you can just have a social group. And that's another thing. Not a fraternity or sorority, but just a social group. And you can have social groups within fraternities and sororities where you just meet up to go to the driving range or the putting green together. And it's just a social group. You go out there and putt and, pass, intellectual properties between each other. And, helping each other try to be better putters. And it's a social group. You go out there and you're on the putting green for an hour or two. And then you go and have something to eat and drink afterwards. But it's about getting better at putting. Or you create a social group for the driving range. And you meet up at the driving range and you're hitting balls and you help each other try to get better. And, after you're, an hour or two on the driving range, you go and have some food and drink. It's a social group. That's what social groups are. They have one for biking here in Chicago, Critical Mass. It's just a social group, and they meet up to bike together. That's it. And it's a social group. So, again, like people that do the cars and that, where they meet up at certain malls and that, and they have their cars out there, and it's just a social group. And so they talk cars and they show off each other's car, and they have some food and drink, and that's a social group. So these can be done in businesses, and they can have intramural groups within the business, or Google can play Microsoft in, chess, but it's whatever, video game chess. So, there can be Team Apple against Team Microsoft, against Team Google, against Team IBM. Truly. And they play, just create a social atmosphere and camaraderie between different companies. So it's competitive, but it's also, you create a social atmosphere where, you can play the games and have some kind of camaraderie within the industry, the technology industry. So they used to do that in bowling alleys, remember? They had teams like Waltz Brothers, I think they're used to be on a team for the Tool and Die Administration. They had different shops that went bowling. So Waltz Brothers would have a team, and then Turbo Dynamic, I don't know if that's actually a shop's name, but whatever. And they used to do that at the bowling alley all the time. So they show that on, what's his name? He has that TV show where he plays a UPS driver, but it's not UPS. And yeah, King and Queens. And he's part of a bowling league. And so that's what they do. They play other divisions of, say, UPS. So UPS, Deerfield plays UPS Northbrook. So again, they play these different things. And this is social groups. And it's within the company, but UPS can play FedEx for like the logistics crown. Truly, it's a social, and UPS plays, you have the intramural where you play between each other, and then you have a team that plays between, RL is a logistics company, ABF is a logistics company, and other logistics companies, and they play in a league between companies. Usually those are the better players, and those are the more serious players. And then the intramural within RL, they have their own, thing within the company. So again, you're creating camaraderie within the company, but you're creating camaraderie within the industry. Like plumbing companies, they can compete against each other in bowling. Or how about ping pong, like at Spin and many of the other ping pong places. So again, you create these networks, and you get to socialize and meet people and have these goals each year. Truly, that you finish 5th and you want to finish 4th this year. It doesn't mean you're going to make it, but it's a goal. And these are things that give you purpose-driven life, things that you can live for. So again, these are the things they should be emphasizing in elementary school and high school and college, keeps people from getting involved in criminal activity. Like, the martial arts tournaments, the Karate Kid. You can create a martial arts club. I went, when I was with the TMA, I went to martial arts tournaments. So we were there, and different high schools, we used their gyms, high school gyms. And, we were there for the different tournaments. So again, and here I'm at the Boys and Girls Club that's over here. That'll be over here. This is the Boys and Girls Club here on Irving Park in Chicago that I used to go to. And then you have the Park District right next door, the Field House. And they should be working together jointly. The Boys and Girls Club should be working together with the Chicago Park District, doing things. And then right across the street here is Horner Park, and this is where I played baseball. Here, this is Horner Park, and they have a field house, and the baseball league was the Chicago Park District ran it. And this is a team, but we also had an all-star team, and I played on the all-star team and traveled around the city playing teams from all over Chicago. And then, well, I'll go straight, but on the other side of the street is McFedrick's. There's an ice arena, and you can have, figure skating teams and speed skating teams and all of that stuff at McFedrick's. They just have to have different ice times for different things. And then hockey teams can play there, club hockey or social group. That's why Chicago Sports and Social, where we did our football through, flag football, Chicago Sports and Social. And I played flag football with my brother Carl at Gompers, but I don't know how the league was run. But these are people that went to bars. So you would play one bar, had another. So a lot of bars had softball teams. Like this right here. The Crust Tap Room would have a softball team or a flag football team for its regulars. It's made up of only your regulars. And so you had to be a regular, like Rat's Ass. And that was a bar, the Rat's Ass. And they had a football team and a softball team. And you had to be a regular that went to that place. And my brother used to play for different bars for his flag football and softball teams. So the funny thing is, it wasn't all sitting around drinking. They played on sports teams. It got people out there into the community, and then they come back to the Rat's Ass after the flag football game. And we did. I went there with my brother. We go over there and hang out with everybody. And so this is a way where pubs, unlike my father, where you sit down, you create social clubs within the pubs, and they play each other. Now, you can have Texas Hold'em. You can play, there are many forms, spades or whatever. And one bar hosts it one night, and another bar hosts it another night. And then if you have pool tables between bars, you can host pool leagues. You have an in-house, but between bars. So from Rat's Ass can go to Kildeer's Liquors. If they both have pool tables and a team comes over and they play each other in the league. And so they go to each other's locations to play sports. Or you can do that with dart leagues and that. And so these businesses get people out of the stool, keep them from becoming alcoholics, and get them involved and active, and they meet and socialize with people, and you create neighborhood and community. And so it's much better. So I wonder if McDonald's is going away, or is it getting rebuilt? Closing for construction. Okay, they're redoing my McDonald's where I went. My brothers worked at this McDonald's on Irving and Elston, and that's where I used to go eat every so often. And my brother, when he worked there, brought home food from McDonald's. And then my sister worked at Alps, which is on the corner. And yes, my dad went into the Gold Leaf. But it would have been nice if they had clubs, because then my dad would have played in different leagues and wouldn't have been there focused all the time drinking. And yeah, it can be a runner's club. Do you know bars can have runners clubs? And they could team up with the Chicago Area Runners Association and sponsor runners clubs, keeping their people healthy, detoxing their body, preventing them from getting all the negativities of drinking. Truly. But they have to be innovative and think of ways to get their patrons active and keep them healthy. So again, these are things that they can do and create, and it helps protect them, insulate them from negativity and downturn. So those people have good things going on in their life. It might not be good at work, but outside of work, you have the softball team and that, and you hang out with your friends. And that's what they show in Good Will Hunting. You know, things are shitty in their jobs and that, not the high-powered jobs and that, but outside life, they could be a big deal, like the movie with Robin Williams, and they do the football, but you can be, you know, you're a big deal in the football league or the softball league. Yeah. Your work is more, how do you say, normal? Like, but you're a big deal in the softball league, or your team is a big deal and you win. Or just in general, you play in the league and there's inner competition, like, you know, ABC Plumbing against, you know, Elston Plumbing. And, you know, you have these rivalries that inspires you, like Patty Max here, Public House. And, you know, Gold Leaf is going to play Patty Max, and they're big rivals, you know. They play each other every year, and, you know, that's how you have divisions, and you play each other, and it creates this natural rivalry. But these are things that give people, you know, things to live for. You can do it with the mosque. I was telling Sam to set up soccer leagues and different things at the mosque where you play other mosques. And if you want, you can use Chicago Sports and Social, and they can do it between churches or between mosques or between synagogues. Truly. And they set it out, and these are the religious leagues. And so you can have one like the different small groups, like at NCPC, they play each other in You know, when I was at church, we had the softball leagues. And so we played all the different other Korean churches. So Evergreen and Lakeview and NCPC and many others. And then we had a championship. And, you know, we played for the church league championship. It was on a weekend and everybody was there, and yeah, they got pizza from Costco usually. And we would, you know, there's, I think, 4 diamonds where we played. And then somebody would win the church league. But again, these are things that you can do, which I've participated in all of this stuff, that makes connections. So it doesn't matter, you know, Metro by T-Mobile. They can create whatever. If they want digital games, like, I don't know what's a hot game, and they can set up a league within Metro and they play each other from the different stores. And then Metro by T-Mobile can sponsor, you know, set up the league. And this is human resources setting it up. And they sponsor it, and then they track it, and they give a prize, first, second, and third prize. And it helps create this camaraderie between the stores because they don't know each other. So it's like Walgreens can do the same. And within areas, and they break them off and they play against each other. So you have to work with the scheduling in that, but human resources can do it. So again, these things can be done. Like my brother used to play in the basketball league at Gompers Park. Now that was just for people that came in and signed up. But that was by the park district. And you sign up as adults, and, you know, you have your teams with friends and that, and you play at the park district. And so he played on those teams. So it doesn't have to be from a business or anything else. And you play against people you don't really know. Other people in the area put together teams, and this park district should be sending out flyers and saying, you know, come set up, you know, be part of this league. So again, this keeps people out of negativity. So you keep on wanting to promote, like the city of Chicago, the continuous tailgaters and the negativity. Well, you're just pieces of fucking shit that are going to burn in hell. Quite honestly, you're destined through your actions of literally terrorism. Because if God is omnipotent, he knows what you're doing, and he knows how the person who's feeling. And that's why it says vengeance is the Lord, because he knows each side's story. And he gets it right. So that's the thing the police don't know. But God does. He knows everybody's story. And so if you're tailgating, he knows you're tailgating, and he knows that other person is terrorized. And that's part of being condemned. You don't get away with shit. As the Bible says, you're judged for everything, whether it's going for you or against you. So you're not getting away with anything. You just set up a scenario that's going to bury you. But that's your choice, right? Well, not really, because we say the city of Chicago, we have rules. And that means the politicians and law enforcement aren't doing things correctly. So again, we have rules, and we set them up, and God gives you free will to establish them. This codes of conduct, and when people can get away with them, that means they're shit. There's that lane over there. So, again, and we fuck up by bringing these shitbags into our society. You know that the Pilgrims came over, and I studied them and everything. They came over, had no problems in their communities. And then when you bring over, other people say, oh, there's opportunity, and all the shitbags come over. And that's why you have to have strong, secure borders and weed people out. Because what do? We just bring over shitbags, and they bring over their filth and their Russian mob, Italian mob, MS-13, you name it. And they just want to come over here and terrorize people and make money through terrorization. And so we're supposed to be weeding them through tight immigration and going back over everybody's immigration status. Because you can't let them here and breed babies and breed more evil people. So again, you got to do things in the correct manner. So you're just pieces of garbage. You are always stoking the flames instead of putting them out. You're finding reasons to stoke them. I find reasons to put them out. I don't find reasons to inflame people. I find reasons to put out the fires. And my thing is, with voting and everything else, understanding the demographics and that, because you say, oh, it's racism you're talking, really? So when you have a Hispanic community, and the trend is everybody's moving out of the community and white people are moving in, well, what's going to happen? There's going to be less eating and dining and Hispanic culture and so on, like in Little Village. It's just like happened with K-Town. I pointed out Koreatown on Lawrence. What happened? The merchants, the people started moving out. The Koreans started moving out of the neighborhood. And then the store owners started moving out because they catered to the Korean population, but the Korean population moved away from Lawrence. And what went with it? All those stores. Because they didn't do anything and talk to the aldermen to incentivize them to stay in the community. I'm not saying they have to keep it, but if people want to keep the stores, their business, their cultures, well, it's up to them. And that's why there's no more K-Town. And it sucks. I actually was up there when I was a little kid because it's by my house. And I brought Jen there to a Korean restaurant that closed down and disappeared because it further shrunk. And I brought her there in 2002. She never knew there was a K-Town. A Koreatown. See, people are supposed to give you room so you can get over, not pin you in. Because that makes it risky for the cars on the right-hand side. So that means the cars on the left-hand side get tickets. Failing to yield and accommodate. remember, there's the law, Megan's Law, and you got to get over. Well, that means the people in the second lane understand. There's a car coming up. It's on the shoulder. Megan's Law. I got to let that guy in and give him space so he can get over. So Megan's Law, not for you. You ticket the guy in the second lane. And you say, hey, Mr. Piece of fucking shit. You understand Megan's Law? You know, it's on your driver's test. It should be. That they must move over one lane for the person on the shoulder. And that you must accommodate them in the second and third lane. Because you must accommodate them. So when you're in the first lane, it's like parting the Red Seas. Those that are in the second lane make spacing. And those in the third lane make spacing for people in the second lane to get over so the first lane can get over. It's a community on the highway. And you're working together. But how do you create that community? Through the driver's test and road testing. And the police penalize people for failing to yield. And they pull them over and say, hey, Mr. Piece of fucking dirtbag shit, do you understand Megan's Law, you fucking scumbag? So, I'm going to give you a warning, and it's in the system. So anyone, local, county, state, and we do reciprocity, every state has it. So when they run your name, it pulls up the warnings from every state. Oh, you were issued a Megan's warning in Illinois. This is an Arizona state trooper pulling over. Sorry, bro, I gotta ticket you now. You already had your fucking warning, you piece of fucking scum. Now the penalty. So, all of that has to pull up between states. Because what happens? Somebody leaves Portland, Oregon, and they move to Los Angeles. And they leave behind all their parking tickets. And there's no reciprocity, so the person just doesn't pay the tickets. Whatever, you say they're going to put it on their credit. Reciprocity works better. Where you're in Los Angeles, and now you have a boot, and you're impounded in Los Angeles. Los Angeles makes money because now they ticketed you, and when they pulled it up, you have outstanding parking tickets from Portland when they're going to give you a ticket, and now I can boot your car and boot and maybe impound, and now you got to pay our ticket and you got to pay Portland, Oregon's ticket. Now, I said the grace works where you say, okay, we can work out payments and you can pay us over 6 months or a year the fee. Or we can do community service as well. So you got to work 100 hours for Chicago Care. Just as an example. But either way, you're going to pay. So you can't get around paying. So we have to have reciprocity for all of this stuff. From the between the states, from the state to the other states, from the county to the other counties, to the local, to the others, but it shows up in anyone's system. So if a state trooper pulls you over, you get background from every state. So if you've run a lot of speeding tickets in Ohio, and now you're in Illinois, well, you can't skate the system, the long arm of the law. Now we're impounding your truck. Because you have a ticket here, which you were doing a violation, and now we find out you have violations in Oregon, Wisconsin, wherever, Florida, and it comes up and like, you've had reckless driving tickets in 3 different states, and now you're getting one in Illinois? So we can't allow these people to move jurisdictions and get away with things, and this is what happens. Truly, they move jurisdictions. Like if you got evicted from a property in Illinois and now you're getting a property in Los Angeles, and they do it and like, you got evicted from Illinois. Sorry, bro. You got to go into the shelter. You got to pay your penance. I can't rent to you. So we got to stop this shit with these scumbags. And it's not Nazism. It's people playing the fucking game. And they do this with schools and everything else. Like, they'll do something at the University of Arizona, and they get kicked out. And what happens? They go to Howard University. And I'm not mentioning the guy's name, but then at Howard University, it happens again, and he gets kicked out. And now he's going to another university. And they just hop around playing the system, never reforming. Because the system is blinded, because they just moved to another one. And so, again, you can't let them play the system. So if you have violations that are in Illinois, they can see all that in Wisconsin, in Ohio, in Florida, and so on. So you have this sharing of information to protect from bad actors. Because what do? They always move to get out from under. They do horrible things, and then they change areas, and all those people don't know. That's why I watched American Greed. I watched them shift all around the country and within states running scams. And one state closed down the scam, and they opened in another state, and the other state wasn't even aware of it. And that's what they do, because there's no reciprocity. Because if they leave one state, the other states should know they picked up, and they're going to set roots somewhere else in the country. So you flag it, and they go, and you have to be looking out for these people, and you know the people, so you can track them through driver's licenses, state ID cards, truly, credit card systems, and many others, banking systems, because they're going to have to re-register. So they're gonna rent at a hotel, like, the daily hotel rentals or whatever, and they gotta put down their driver's license or their state ID, and bing, 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 law enforcement is notified, and they do a well-being check, and they knock on the door and say, "Hey, Joe, welcome to the state of Illinois. Good to see ya. So we know you left Oregon and that now you're here, and we're just going to say we just want to welcome you and let you know we know your background. So keep your nose clean. We'll be watching." So we got to stop this shit. These people keep on hopping, and they get away with shit all the time. And this is why you can't have sanctuary cities, because they can be in California, New York, or whatever, hopping. And then we studied this at Gordon Tellock, and there's a book, and we used to see people welfare hopping around the United States. Yes, welfare hopping. They would check out what states had the best welfare benefits. And when one state enhanced their welfare benefits, they would leave their current state and go to that state because they could get better welfare benefits. Better food pantries, better welfare benefits, better housing vouchers, better charitable programs. And if I could get Gordon Tullock, reach him, he could tell you all about it. These people were playing the game. They were hopping between states, writing their benefit packages, and they would go online and and analyze and figure out what state has, and they said, we're going to this state because they have the sweetest packages for bums. Why do you think there's a bunch of bums in Tucson and San Diego in that? Good weather. Truly. Go look at the bum populations. They go where the weather is. They don't want to be out there freezing their ass off. Bums migrate, if you didn't know. And then they go and look for the best benefit packages. Where the best soup kitchens are, where the best freebies. So this is in the 90s we studied this. All these people rent-seeking. And Gordon, he should have won a Nobel Prize. His partner won it for rent-seeking. And so we studied all the freeloaders. Truly, the freeloading system. It's great to have St. Jude's and Children's and that, but if a parent is willfully neglecting getting a job and getting health care benefits and supporting a drug habit or a gambling habit, and they feed off the system so they don't have to address their alcoholism or their drug abuse or their gambling problem or whatever problem it is. And they feed off of the system. And so, again, they play charities like Shriners and Children's and St. Jude's because they don't do the right thing. And so they keep on enabling these people not to do the right thing. And I've watched this my whole life. They empower the fuck out of them to continue on not doing their thing. Like, not getting their GED, not doing the things they need to do, and they keep them in this system by enabling them. Because why should I do this? Like David used to talk about his sister, and I talked about getting her off of it and interacting. He was doing things, but again, she would play and game the systems. And so where she could get the most food pantry resources and the most best housing vouchers and best medical and everything, gaming the system. So she didn't have to address her issues. So she just let them continue to go on. And so these people are gaming the system. They have all the ability, truly. You just need to give them the motivation. They just game the system. And you are creating a very evil and sick system. And that's not how it's supposed to be. So, St. Jude's, Shriners, Children's are gaming the system. My mom, she worked at Bankers Life and Casualty, and my brother went to Farkash, and paid the total bill there. And then he went to Children's, and my mother paid $1 million insurance bill, private insurance. She didn't game the system. So, again, these people game the system and you can get a part-time job at Starbucks for health care. And there are other firms that offer them. Like Nikki, she worked part-time. Her husband had a construction company, but they got their health benefits through Starbucks. And she worked part-time at Starbucks to give the health benefits to her and her husband. My partner, David, he didn't get health benefits through the firm or his 401k. He used his wife. So his wife had worked at the church, got a job at the church, part-time, and it became full-time, and she got health benefits and 401k. And so David would put the money into their 401k, her 401k, and he got his health benefits under their group health plan. So his wife provided him health insurance and a retirement account, and David managed the retirement account because she's not swift on stocks and that investing. David is. So David ran the retirement account. So they weren't gaming the system. So you might have one job and another spouse gets another job where they can provide benefits. So again, I'm sick and tired of people gaming the fucking system because there's no reciprocity. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. And again, this person, like behind me, better than most, but still. But the point is, they're just gaming the fucking system, and you're enabling them to game the system. It is so sick how many people game the freaking system. They need to get financial literacy and stop gaming the system. So again, if you're a gangbanger in Los Angeles, as I told you, they moved into Denver. But the Denver police didn't have any of the gang info. Now, they didn't commit crimes, they weren't busted, but they were known as an active gang member. And then they moved into, truly, the gangs moved from Los Angeles into Denver and many, Arizona and many other states, and yes, even came into Chicago. The hard West Coast gangs moved, what? East. And the hard East Coast moved west. And the reason they were able to set up shop is because no one tagged them as a known gang member. And so when they came in, they haven't done any crimes, they can set up shop, they can operate, but it should flag them as a known gang member. So again, this is why they spread all over the place. And all of a sudden, the wolves are all set up to devour the sheep. Because the system doesn't tell them. The police get an FYI, known gang member, knowing mafiosa for the cartel moved into the neighborhood. And they pay a notice and go by and say, hey, I'll use Larry. Hey, Larry, how you doing? So, you're moved into the neighborhood. And we want to wish you a good time, but we have indicators there are some issues from your past. So, I'm just saying, hopefully you didn't bring that with you here. Welcome to Minnesota.